My mom locked me on the porch during a snowstorm, smiling as I shivered in my school clothes. When I begged her to let me back in, she sneered, "Fresh air builds character." I stayed silent. That was 6 years ago. Yesterday, the nurses found her huddled by a drafty window, whispering for another blanket. My mother only wanted one of her children to be resilient. Me, not my delicate sister who needed her beauty sleep in her heated princess room. Not my baby brother who'd catch pneumonia if the thermostat dropped below 72. Just me, the middle child who needed to be toughened up. On my 7th birthday, she tried to make me sleep on the floor to fix my posture. Luckily, my adopted brother Paul stopped it straight away. He'd spent years in foster homes where kids slept on floors. He wanted to break the cycle, but instead of stopping, my mom got crafty. My brother's night shifts at the hospital meant bedtime was her territory. The first time, she locked me out of my room and made me sleep on the enclosed porch. "Fresh air builds character," she said, watching me shiver in my school clothes. "You're too soft." My siblings had flannel sheets and space heaters while I got the character building, locked out during a snowstorm. My winter coat perpetually at the dry cleaners while I walked to school in a thin windbreaker. She'd stand at the porch door, arms crossed, making sure I didn't sneak inside. If I knocked, tears. Full-blown wailing about how I was too weak, how she was trying to help me, how ungrateful I was. The guilt worked. I learned to stop asking. Fast forward to high school, when the school nurse told me I had permanent circulation problems, as well as documented frostbite on 3 toes. I knew better than to say how I got them. Some nights I'd huddle in the corner until 4 a.m., unable to feel my feet, practicing staying silent so she wouldn't hear my teeth chattering. And I never told my brother directly, but I gave signs. "It's really cold out there," I mentioned to Paul once over breakfast. Mom's laugh tinkled like breaking icicles. "Listen to this one. We give her shelter and she complains about the temperature." Paul ruffled my hair, distracted. He believed every word. The woman who brought him coffee in bed every morning couldn't possibly be locking their kid in a freezer. My salvation came in tiny rebellions. Mrs. Ping next door would sometimes accidentally leave her basement window open when she saw Mom's car leave. I'd sneak over, sit by her radiator for 10 minutes, then sneak back before anyone noticed. Mom caught me once, made me watch while she called Mrs. Ping and accused her of undermining parental authority. "Some people don't understand that comfort breeds weakness," she said, hanging up with satisfaction. Mrs. Ping never left her window open again. Everything changed senior year. My best friend Tara asked me to her family's cabin. 3 days of actual heating, insulated walls, a real winter vacation. When I asked permission, Mom's face transformed into something arctic. "Interesting priorities," she said softly. "Here I thought family meant something to you. It's just a weekend." "Your character isn't built yet," she interrupted. "Maybe when you're stronger." That night, while I shivered on my concrete floor watching Tara text me photos of the fireplace, a different kind of cold settled into my bones, the kind that comes with clarity. 8 years of freezing, and what had I learned? Only that some people feed on your suffering. I'd been enduring. Time to start planning. After college, I became a social worker, specifically in elder care. Got my certifications, built my reputation. Mom thought I was being noble. Really, I was becoming an expert in elder housing. Her hip gave out 4 years later at 65. Surgery went fine, but she needed placement for rehab. Lucky for her, she had a daughter who knew the system inside and out. I scrolled through the facility options on my computer screen. Each click calculated. Frost Pines Rehabilitation Center popped up. East Wing available. Perfect. The facility director, Barbara Chen, had mentioned during our last professional meeting that their East Wing heating system had been awaiting repairs for 6 months. State inspections showed they maintained legal minimum temperatures. Barely. I called Barbara directly. "I have a patient needing immediate placement. Female, 65, post-hip surgery. The East Wing bed is still available?" "It is," Barbara confirmed. "Though I should mention the heating situation hasn't improved. We're within regulations, but some patients find it chilly. My mother grew up in Minnesota," I said smoothly. "She's always complaining places are too warm. This might actually be ideal." The placement paperwork took 2 hours. I checked every box, documented every medical need. When the ambulance arrived to transport Mother from the hospital, I was waiting with my professional smile and clipboard. "I found you the perfect place," I told her, watching her eyes narrow slightly. "Frost Pines has an excellent reputation." The ride to Frost Pines took 20 minutes. Mother sat propped up in the transport gurney, studying my face. I kept my expression neutral, professional. The driver made small talk about the weather. Mother's fingers drummed against the blanket. We pulled up to a sprawling brick building. The East Wing stretched to our left, windows facing north. No afternoon sun. I checked the building orientation myself. Barbara met us at the entrance, all warmth and efficiency. "Mrs. Patterson, we're so pleased to have you. Your daughter speaks so highly of our facility." Mother's smile could have frozen water. How lovely. I'm sure my daughter chose carefully. The intake process moved quickly. I'd pre-completed most forms. We wheeled Mother through corridors that grew progressively cooler as we approached the East Wing. Other residents wore sweaters. Some had blankets draped over their wheelchairs. "Here we are," Barbara announced, opening the door to room 142. "Your home for the next few weeks." The room was adequate, clean, properly equipped, everything up to code. The thermostat read 68 degrees, legal minimum for healthcare facilities. The north-facing window let in gray light but no warmth. Mother's roommate, Helen Martinez, looked up from her knitting. "Welcome. I hope you brought warm pajamas. The heating in this wing is temperamental." I busied myself unpacking Mother's suitcase. 3 thin nightgowns, 2 light robes. The winter clothes I'd selected were still at her house. "I'll bring warmer things tomorrow," I said. "Of course you will," Mother replied, her voice honey-sweet. Barbara gave us the tour. The dining hall, the activity room, the physical therapy gym, all in the properly heated main building. The East Wing residents had to travel through connecting corridors to reach them. Long corridors, drafty ones. "We have bingo every Tuesday and Thursday," Barbara mentioned. "I actually run the Thursday session myself. It's quite popular." Mother's eyes lit up with something I recognized. How delightful. I do enjoy a good game. Back in room 142, I helped Mother settle into bed. The sheets were thin but regulation. The blanket adequate but not plush. Everything met standards. Nothing exceeded them. "The nurses will check on you every 2 hours," I explained. "Physical therapy starts tomorrow at 10. I've arranged everything with your insurance." "You've thought of everything," Mother said, just like always. Helen had stepped out to the bathroom. We were alone. Mother's mask slipped for just a moment. "Clever," she whispered. "Very clever." I maintained my professional expression. "I don't know what you mean. This facility has excellent outcomes for hip rehabilitation. The East Wing," she continued softly, "the broken heating, the north-facing windows. You think I don't see what you're doing? I'm ensuring you receive appropriate care within insurance parameters," I replied evenly. "Frost Pines is fully accredited. Mother's laugh was quiet, almost admiring. 25 years later, and you finally learned to play the game. Helen returned, settling back into her chair with difficulty. Arthritis, she explained. The cold makes it worse. My daughter's a lawyer. Keeps saying she'll look into whether they're really meeting heating requirements. Mother's expression shifted instantly to concern. How difficult for you. And your daughter sounds so devoted. I gathered my purse and clipboard. I'll be back tomorrow with those warmer clothes. Call if you need anything. I'll be fine, Mother assured me. I'm tougher than I look. The drive home took 30 minutes. I'd chosen Frost Pines partly for its distance. Close enough for regular visits. Far enough that drop-ins would be inconvenient. My phone buzzed with texts from Paul. How did Mom's placement go? He asked when I called him back. Smoothly. She's at Frost Pines. They have an excellent physical therapy program. Never heard of it. Is it nice? It's appropriate, I said carefully. Fully licensed. Good safety record. She'll get the care she needs. Paul yawned. He'd just finished a 12-hour shift. You're the expert. I trust your judgment. When can I visit? Visiting hours are 2 to 8. She'll need a few days to settle in first. We hung up. I made myself dinner, reviewing Mother's care plan while I ate. Everything documented. Everything justified. Everything legal. The next morning, I arrived at Frost Pines with a small bag. 2 fleece robes from the discount store. Thick but not particularly soft. The kind that would keep someone warm but feel like a punishment. Mother was in the dining hall, already holding court at a table of 3 other residents. Her breakfast tray showed she'd eaten everything. The dining hall was warm. She'd probably lingered. Darling, she called out. Come meet my new friends. I smiled and waved but stayed by the entrance. Just dropping off your things. I have work. She's a social worker, Mother told her table mates. Specializes in elder care. I'm so fortunate to have such a knowledgeable daughter. The activities board showed bingo at 2 o'clock. Thursday, Barbara's session. I made a mental note. Back in room 142, Helen was struggling with her sweater buttons. Your mother's quite the social butterfly, she said, already making friends. I hung the robes in the narrow closet. The room felt cooler than yesterday. The thermostat still read 68. I checked the window. The seal was intact but old. A slight draft whispered through. These should help with the temperature, I told Helen, gesturing to the robes. You're very thoughtful, Helen replied. My daughter keeps saying she'll bring me warmer things too. She's been so busy with work. Legal cases, you know how it is. I did know. I also knew that family members who threatened legal action rarely followed through. Too much effort. Too much cost. As long as facilities met minimum standards, complaints went nowhere. Mother returned from breakfast 20 minutes later, moving carefully with her walker. The physical therapy was working. She'd be mobile soon. Mobile enough to explore. To build alliances. The robes are lovely, she said, fingering the coarse material. So practical. I'll bring more clothes on Thursday, I promised. Thursday? Mother's eyes sharpened. But that's bingo day. Barbara mentioned you sometimes stop by for the games when you're visiting other clients. I had never attended bingo at Frost Pines. My schedule's quite full. Of course, Mother agreed. You work so hard. Barbara was asking about you actually, wondering if you'd found placements for other clients here. I told her you always research thoroughly. The first move. I recognized it. Plant seeds of doubt. Make connections. Build a narrative. I should go, I said. Call if you need anything. Oh, I'll manage, Mother assured me. I always do. The next 2 days passed quietly. I monitored Mother's chart remotely. Physical therapy notes showed good progress. Nursing notes mentioned she'd requested extra blankets. Denied. She had sufficient bedding per facility standards. Thursday arrived gray and cold. I had 3 home visits scheduled but found myself driving past Frost Pines at 1:45. The parking lot was fuller than usual. Bingo day brought visitors. I sat in my car, watching residents make their way to the activity room. Mother appeared in the east wing doorway, moving steadily with her walker. She wore both fleece robes layered over her nightgown. The wind caught the thin fabric, making her clutch the walker tighter. She paused halfway across the courtyard, speaking to another resident, then another. By the time she reached the main building, she'd stopped 6 times, building her network. My phone rang. Dylan Chen's name appeared on the screen. We'd been in the same social work program, though he'd specialized in adult protective services. Hey stranger, he said. Long time. Listen, this is a bit awkward, but I got an interesting call today. Anonymous report about a social worker possibly exhibiting caregiver burnout, making questionable placement decisions. My hand tightened on the phone. Anonymous? Yeah, probably nothing, but the caller seemed very concerned, mentioned specific details about a recent placement at Frost Pines. Your name came up as the placing social worker. Through the window, I watched Mother disappear into the main building. I see. Look, I know you, Dylan continued. You're one of the most ethical workers I've ever met, but I have to follow up. Can we grab coffee tomorrow? Go over the placement documentation? Of course, I said evenly. I have nothing to hide. I figured, but you know how it is. Anonymous complaints require investigation, even the obviously false ones. We scheduled for 10 the next morning. I hung up and sat in the cooling car, watching my breath fog the windshield. Inside the activity room, bingo would be starting. Barbara would be calling numbers. Mother would be playing her own game. I drove to my next appointment, mind already cataloging documentation. Every form filled correctly. Every decision justified. Every placement appropriate. That night, I pulled Mother's file and reviewed each page. Frost Pines met every requirement. The east wing temperature issue was documented, but within legal parameters. Nothing actionable. Nothing wrong. My phone buzzed with a text from Paul. Visiting Mom tomorrow after my shift. She says it's pretty cold there. I typed carefully. Older buildings often have temperature variations. She has adequate bedding. Maybe I should bring her that thick comforter from her room? The facility has regulations about outside bedding. Fire codes. I'll handle it. Paul sent a thumbs up emoji. He trusted me. They all did. The responsible daughter. The professional who knew best. I made chamomile tea and sat at my kitchen table. Warm air from the heating vent ruffling papers. Outside, November pressed against the windows. Inside, I planned my next moves. Mother had fired the first shot with the APS report. I'd need documentation showing other residents were comfortable with the temperature. Testimonials from staff about Mother refusing to wear provided sweaters. Evidence that her complaints were exaggerated. The game had begun. 25 years late, but finally balanced. She'd taught me well after all. How to work within systems. How to maintain deniability. How to make suffering look like care. My circulation-damaged toes ached in the warmth. Phantom pains from frostbite that never fully healed. I rubbed them absently, remembering nights when I couldn't feel them at all. Tomorrow I'd meet Dylan for coffee. I'd show him my impeccable paperwork. Express concern about Mother's adjustment difficulties. Plant my own seeds about her history of manipulation. But tonight, I sat in my warm apartment and smiled. Mother was probably lying in her regulation bed, feeling the November cold seep through old windows, finally understanding what it meant to be powerless against someone who controlled your comfort. report. The student had become the teacher, and class was in session. Friday morning arrived with frost on my windshield. I scraped it off methodically, preparing for my meeting with Dylan. The coffee shop on Maple Street was neutral territory, far from both Frost Pines and my office. Dylan was already there, laptop open, professional smile in place. We'd graduated together, taken the same ethics courses, believed in the same principles of client advocacy. Now he sat across from me with an open case file. Thanks for meeting, he began, sliding a folder across the table. Like I said, this is probably nothing, but I need to document the follow-up. I opened the folder. Standard APS intake form. The complaint was detailed, specific. Someone had done their homework. The caller mentioned you'd placed your mother at Frost Pines specifically because of the heating issues in the East Wing. Dylan said carefully. They expressed concern about potential elder abuse through environmental neglect. I pulled out my own documentation. Intake forms, medical assessments, facility comparisons. Frost Pines was the only facility with an available bed that met mother's insurance requirements and had the specialized equipment for her specific hip surgery recovery needs. Dylan scanned the papers. The East Wing heating issue is mentioned in your notes. Of course, full disclosure is essential, but as you can see, the facility maintains legal minimum temperatures. Mother has adequate bedding and clothing. The placement is entirely appropriate. What about other facilities? Were warmer options available? I produced my comparison chart. 3 other facilities had openings. One had bed bugs. Another had recent citations for medication errors. The third didn't accept her insurance. Everything documented, dated, justified. Dylan made notes. Your mother hasn't filed any formal complaints with the facility. She's adjusting. Change is difficult at her age. I sipped my coffee, maintaining steady eye contact. Has she made other reports? About other concerns? I can't discuss that, Dylan said automatically. Then he sighed. Look, between us, this feels like family drama, not elder abuse, but I have to investigate. I'll need to visit the facility, interview staff, check the conditions myself. Of course, Frost Pines welcomes oversight. Barbara Chen, the director, is very responsive to any concerns. We finished our coffee. Dylan promised to keep me updated. I drove to work, knowing mother's next move was already in motion. Sure enough, when I checked my email, Barbara had sent a message. Your mother mentioned you might have other clients needing placement. I wanted to discuss our availability and perhaps address some concerns she raised about the heating situation. I called Barbara immediately. I appreciate you reaching out. What specific concerns did mother mention? She's been documenting temperature readings, Barbara said carefully, taking photos of condensation on the windows. She showed them to several other residents during bingo yesterday. I wanted to assure you that we're addressing the heating repairs as quickly as possible. I have complete confidence in Frost Pines, I replied. Mother can be particular about her comfort. Has she been wearing the warm robes I brought? The staff mentioned she often removes them, claiming they're too heavy for her shoulders. I made a note. I'll speak with her about cooperating with comfort measures. After hanging up, I drove to Frost Pines. Mother wasn't in her room. Helen was there, bundled in 2 sweaters and a blanket. She's in the activity room, Helen said, having tea with some ladies from the West Wing. They have better heating over there. I found mother holding court with 4 residents, her walker positioned strategically beside her chair. She'd styled her hair and applied lipstick, playing the gracious victim. Darling, she exclaimed. What a lovely surprise. Ladies, this is my daughter, the social worker I was telling you about. The women smiled politely, but I caught the assessment in their eyes. Mother had been planting seeds. Could we speak privately? I asked. Of course. She made a production of struggling with her walker, letting one of the women steady her. I'll be right back, dears. We found an empty corner in the hallway. Mother's mask dropped immediately. Dylan Chen, she said simply. Such a nice young man, very concerned about elder welfare. Your anonymous report won't go anywhere, I said quietly. Everything is documented. Every decision justified. Oh, I know, Mother smiled. But it starts a paper trail, doesn't it? And Paul will be visiting tomorrow. I thought I'd show him my frost photos. Maybe mention how you insisted on this particular facility despite other options. Paul trusts my professional judgment. For now. She adjusted her thin robe. But doubt is like cold air. It finds the cracks and seeps in. A nurse approached. Mrs. Patterson, time for physical therapy. Mother transformed instantly. Thank you, dear. My hip feels so stiff in this cold, but I'm trying my best. The nurse's expression softened. I know it's chilly in the East Wing. Maybe your daughter could bring warmer clothes. She's brought what she thinks is appropriate, Mother said sweetly. I don't want to be a bother. I watched her shuffle away, playing up her frailty. The nurse walked slowly beside her, solicitous and concerned. That afternoon, I visited 3 other clients at different facilities. Each one was warm, comfortable, appropriately placed. I documented everything, building my pattern of competent ethical practice. Saturday brought Paul's visit. I arrived at Frost Pines early, bringing a space heater I'd purchased. Small, safety approved, perfectly legal. This should help with any drafts, I told the head nurse. For Mother's room. How thoughtful, she replied. Though you know we have to inspect any electrical devices, safety protocols. It might take a few days. I'd expected that. The heater would sit in the nursing station while Mother continued to document the cold. Paul arrived at 2, carrying flowers and a box of Mother's favorite chocolates. I met him in the lobby. How's she doing? He asked. Adjusting. Recovery is on track. We walked to the East Wing together. Paul noticed the temperature drop immediately. It is cold over here, he commented. Older building. They're working on repairs. Mother was ready for us. She'd positioned herself by the window, where condensation had formed patterns on the glass. The room felt colder than usual. I suspected she'd opened the window earlier. Paul. She reached for him, hands trembling slightly. How wonderful to see you. He hugged her carefully. You're freezing, Mom. It's not so bad, she said bravely. Your sister found me this facility. She says it's the best for my recovery. Paul looked at me. I saw the first crack in his trust. The physical therapy program here is excellent, I said. Mother's making great progress. But couldn't she recover somewhere warmer? Mother touched his hand. I don't want to complain. Your sister works so hard. She knows best. The martyrdom was perfectly calibrated. Paul's frown deepened. I'll look into transfers, he said. There must be other options. Insurance is very specific about coverage, I said. And moving her now could disrupt her recovery. Still, Mom shouldn't be cold. Mother squeezed his hand. You're sweet to worry, but I survived worse when you children were young. Remember those winters when the heating would break? I always made sure you kids were warm first. A lie wrapped in nostalgia. Paul's expression softened with false memory. You always took care of us, he said. I excused myself to check on another client. From the hallway, I could hear Mother spinning her web. Stories about sacrifice, endurance, putting her children first. All fiction, but Paul had no reason to doubt. When I returned, he was taking photos of the frost on the windows. For documentation, he said, not meeting my eyes. Sunday, I worked on my response to Dylan's investigation. I compiled temperature logs from other facilities showing similar variations, found research on how some elderly patients run naturally warm and prefer cooler environments, built a case that would satisfy any reasonable inquiry. Monday morning, Mother escalated again. I got the call at 7. Mother had experienced a mild hypothermic episode during the night. Her temperature had dropped to 96 degrees. Not dangerous, but concerning. She was being monitored in the medical wing. I arrived to find Paul already there, still in his scrubs from his night shift. This is unacceptable, he said immediately. She could have died. Her temperature was never in the dangerous range, I said calmly. Elderly patients often have natural temperature variations. In a freezing room, the doctor on duty, Dr. Cassandra Winters, intervened. Mrs. Patterson's vitals are stable, but I am concerned about the environmental factors. She mentioned she's been cold since admission. We've provided adequate bedding and clothing, I said. Mother sometimes refuses to use them. I don't want to be difficult, Mother said weakly from the bed. The robes are just so heavy with my arthritis. Dr. Winters made notes. I'll be recommending environmental modifications in my report. Warmer placement if possible. Paul looked at me. We're moving her. Today. That's not how the system works, I began. Then we'll make it work. His voice was steel. I'll pay privately if insurance won't cover it. Mother's eyes glinted with victory before fluttering closed in feigned exhaustion. I spent the morning calling facilities. Everything was documented. Sunnyside Care, full. Warm Haven, outbreak of norovirus. Garden View, under investigation for Medicare fraud. Each rejection perfectly legitimate. The only available option is Northern Breeze, I told Paul that afternoon. They have excellent physical therapy, but what? Their heating system is also under repair. Different issue, but similar temperature concerns. Paul's face darkened. You're telling me every warm facility is conveniently unavailable? I'm telling you the reality of elder care placement. Beds are limited. Good facilities have waiting lists. Then we'll wait. Mother needs continuous physical therapy for her hip. Interrupting treatment could cause permanent mobility issues. The trap was perfect. Paul couldn't argue with medical necessity. Mother was moved back to room 142 that evening with extra blankets and a promise that the space heater would be approved soon. She played the grateful patient, thanking everyone for their concern. Tuesday brought Barbara to Mother's room during my visit. Mrs. Patterson, I wanted to personally assure you we're expediting the heating repairs, she said. Your comfort is our priority. You're so kind, Mother replied. I hope I haven't caused too much trouble. My daughter says I'm being difficult. I said no such thing, I interjected. Barbara's smile was professional but cool. We take all concerns seriously. I understand Mr. Chen from APS will be visiting tomorrow. Mother's eyes widened innocently. A PS? Oh dear. I hope no one's in trouble. Just routine follow-up, I said smoothly. Nothing to worry about. After Barbara left, Mother and I sat in silence. The game board was set, pieces in motion. You know, Mother said finally, I've been thinking about those cold nights when you were young. How you'd huddle on that porch, too proud to knock. Too well trained, I corrected. Perhaps, but pride nonetheless. You could have told Paul, could have shown him the frostbite, but you protected me. I protected him from the truth about you. Mother nodded slowly. And now, what are you protecting? My professional reputation, my career. Is that all? She pulled her thin blanket higher. Or are you protecting the story you've told yourself, that you're different from me? I stood to leave. I'm nothing like you. No? Mother's smile was sharp. You found a vulnerable person. Place them in discomfort. Use the system to justify it. Maintain deniability. Tell me, darling, what's the difference? You had a choice. You chose cruelty. And what are you choosing now? I left without answering. That night, I couldn't sleep. Mother's words circled like vultures. I made tea and reviewed my documentation again. Everything legal. Everything justified. Everything within the system's parameters. Just like her parenting had been. Never crossing into obvious abuse. Always maintaining plausible deniability. Working within the rules to cause suffering. Wednesday morning, Dylan arrived at Frost Pines with a state inspector. I met them in the lobby. Professional smile fixed. Thanks for facilitating this, Dylan said. We'll need to inspect the East Wing, interview residents and staff. Of course, Barbara Chen is expecting you. I shadowed them through the inspection. The thermostat read 68 degrees, as always. Dylan had brought his own thermometer. It confirmed the reading. They interviewed Helen first. It's chilly, she admitted, but manageable with layers. Other residents gave similar statements. Cool, but legal. Uncomfortable, but not dangerous. Then they reached Mother. She was picture perfect. Thin nightgown, no robe, sitting by the drafty window with a book. She timed it precisely. Mrs. Patterson? Dylan introduced himself. I understand you have some concerns about the temperature. Oh, I don't want to complain, Mother said softly. My daughter works so hard to find appropriate placements. I'm sure she did her best. The implied criticism was masterful. Dylan made notes. Are you cold now? He asked. I've been colder. Truth wrapped in misdirection. I'm quite resilient. I had to be. Raising my children. Making sacrifices. Have you reported the temperature issues to staff? I've mentioned it, but I don't want to be a burden. The nurses have so many patients to care for. Dylan checked the closet, noting the 2 robes. You have warm clothing available? Yes. My daughter brought those. Mother fingered the coarse material. They're a bit heavy for my arthritis, but I'm grateful for anything. The inspection continued. I watched Mother work, each word calculated for maximum effect. Not quite lying, but painting a picture of neglect through implication. When Dylan finished, he pulled me aside. The facility meets legal standards, but I have concerns about the placement appropriateness given your mother's specific needs. What would you recommend? Document everything. Consider transfer when a warmer bed becomes available. And maybe, he hesitated, maybe examine your decision-making process. Caregiver burnout is real. It can affect judgment without us realizing. The suggestion stung because it was exactly what Mother wanted him to think. Thursday arrived with bitter wind. The heating repair crew finally showed up at Frost Pines, but Barbara warned it would take at least a week to complete the work. We're offering temporary transfers to the West Wing for any residents who request it, she told me. Your mother declined. Of course she did. The West Wing would ruin her narrative. I found Mother in the activity room, surrounded by her growing circle of allies. She was teaching them to knit, her arthritis miraculously manageable when it suited her purposes. Muscle memory, she explained to her audience. Even when your joints ache, your hands remember the motions, like riding a bicycle. Orient, she caught my eye. Raising children. The women murmured sympathetically. Several glanced at me with poorly concealed judgment. After bingo, Mother cornered me in the hallway. Paul's been researching facilities on his own. He found one with an opening next week. Meadowbrook Senior Living. Excellent heating, he says. I knew Meadowbrook. Excellent heating, yes. Also, a history of over-medicating residents, minimal activities, and food that could charitably be called institutional. I'll review it, I said neutrally. He's already started the paperwork. Says he doesn't trust your judgment anymore. Mother Mother's voice held no triumph, just fact. My poor boy. He feels so guilty for not noticing sooner. Not noticing your manipulation? Not noticing your pain. She studied me with those sharp eyes. All those nights on the porch. He thinks he failed you. And now he thinks you're failing me. You planted that guilt. I merely revealed what was already there. Paul wants to save someone. Since he couldn't save you then, he'll save me now. Friday brought the confrontation I'd been dreading. Paul arrived at my office unannounced, Meadowbrook's glossy brochure in hand. We need to talk, he said, closing the door behind him. I gestured to a chair. About mother? About you. He sat forward, elbows on knees. Dylan Chen called me. Professionally, he can't share details, but he suggested I might want to be more involved in mom's care decisions. I see. Do you? Paul's voice cracked. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you deliberately placed our mother in the coldest facility you could find. That's not the east wing, the broken heating, the north-facing windows? Come on, you're too good at your job for this to be coincidence. I stayed silent. Denial would only confirm his suspicions. I get it, he continued. I do. Mom was hard on you. The porch thing. I should have known. Should have stopped it. You were working. You couldn't have known. But I should have. He rubbed his face. And now you're, what, getting revenge? Making her suffer? I'm providing appropriate care within system parameters. Stop. His voice was sharp. Stop hiding behind bureaucracy. This isn't about systems or parameters. This is about you and mom and whatever happened when I wasn't there to protect you. You can't protect everyone, Paul, but I can protect her. From you. From whatever this is. He stood. I'm moving her to Meadowbrook. Tuesday. I'll pay the difference myself. Meadowbrook has serious quality concerns. It's warm. He cut me off. That's all that matters right now. She'll be warm. He left before I could respond. I sat in my office staring at mother's file. She'd won. Turned my brother against me. Painted herself as the victim. Just like always. That weekend, I visited Mrs. Ping. She still lived next door to our childhood home, now in her 80s, but sharp as ever. I wondered when you'd come, she said, pouring tea with steady hands. Your mother called last week. From some nursing facility. Said you'd put her there. Rehabilitation center. For her hip. Mrs. Ping studied me. She sounded cold. I said nothing. You know, I always wondered why you spent so much time by my radiator those winter nights. Your mother said you were rebellious. Sneaking out. But you were sneaking in, weren't you? Into warmth. She told you I was rebellious? Oh yes. Said you refused to sleep in your bed. Preferred the porch. Children and their phases, she'd say. Mrs. Ping sipped her tea. I wanted to call someone. But who? And say what? The child prefers sleeping outside? They'd have laughed. She was good at that, making it seem like my choice. Yes. Mrs. Ping set down her cup. So now you make choices for her? I found her appropriate care. In a cold place. Within legal parameters. Mrs. Ping smiled sadly. Your mother used to say that too. About the porch. Technically you had shelter. Technically you weren't in danger. Technically, she wasn't doing anything wrong. The parallel hit like ice water. It's not the same, I said. No? You found a vulnerable person. Placed them somewhere cold. Used technicalities to justify it. She reached across the table, patted my hand. I understand the impulse, but understanding isn't endorsement. I left Mrs. Ping's house feeling hollow. The weekend stretched ahead, empty of purpose. Mother would move Tuesday. Paul would save her. The narrative would solidify. Neglectful daughter, suffering mother, heroic son. Monday arrived with news. The east wing heating was partially repaired. Temperature now steady at 70 degrees. Still below the west wing 74, but comfortable. Your mother seems disappointed, Barbara mentioned during my visit. I thought she'd be pleased. Of course mother was disappointed. Warmth ruined her story. I found her packing, Paul helping. The room felt almost pleasant. The heating's fixed, I said. Too little, too late, Paul replied without looking at me. Trust is broken. Mother said nothing, folding her thin nightgowns with practiced precision. Meadowbrook has issues, I tried again. Over-medication, poor activities. The food is warm, Paul finished. Everything else can be managed. I watched them pack, the distance between us growing with each folded garment. Mother had won completely. Not just the war over placement, but the battle for Paul's loyalty. I'll still visit, I said finally. Mother looked up then. Will you? You're still my mother. Am I? She smiled, that sharp, knowing smile. Or am I just another case to manage? Tuesday came too quickly. I arrived at Frost Pines to help with the transfer, but Paul had come early. Mother was already in the transport van. We've got it handled, he said coolly. Through the van window, Mother watched us. No triumph in her expression, just assessment, calculation, planning the next move in a game that would never end. The van pulled away. I stood in the parking lot, watching it disappear. The east wing behind me was warm now. Too late for Mother, but perhaps in time for the next resident. Helen waved from her window. I waved back, then got in my car. Meadowbrook was 20 miles south. I'd visit Thursday, check the conditions, document any concerns, because that's what I did. Work within systems, maintain professional boundaries, make hard choices look like care, just like Mother taught me. I drove straight to Meadowbrook after watching the van disappear. The facility sat on a busy commercial strip, sandwiched between a discount tire shop and a payday loan office. The parking lot had potholes. The landscaping consisted of dying shrubs and cigarette butts. Inside, the heat hit like a wall. The thermostat in the lobby read 82 degrees. Several residents dozed in wheelchairs, faces flushed from the warmth. The air smelled like overcooked vegetables and industrial disinfectant. The receptionist looked up from her phone. Visiting hours don't start until 2. I'm here for the admission paperwork. My mother's arriving shortly. Patricia Patterson. She shuffled through papers. Oh right, your brother already filled everything out. Room 203, second floor. I took the elevator up. The hallways were even warmer than the lobby. Paint peeled from the walls. A television blared from the common area where residents sat in rows, staring at nothing. Room 203 was small, cramped, with 2 beds separated by a stained curtain. The roommate was already there, a woman who looked heavily sedated, drooling slightly as she slept. Paul arrived with Mother 20 minutes later. She entered the room using her walker, taking in every detail. Her expression remained neutral, but I saw the calculation in her eyes. It's certainly warm, she said mildly. Paul helped her to the bed. See? Much better than that freezer at Frost Pines. A nurse appeared, young and harried. New admission? I'll need to do an intake assessment. She glanced at her watch. Though I've got 6 other assessments backed up. Might be a few hours. That's fine, Mother said graciously. I'm sure you're doing your best with limited resources. The nurse's face softened. Thanks for understanding. Short staffed today. Well, every day really. After the nurse left, Paul turned to me. See? They're perfectly nice here. I said nothing. Mother was already cataloging the facility's deficiencies. The overwhelmed staff, the sedated roommate, the institutional atmosphere. She'd have ammunition within days. I should go, I said. Let you get settled. So soon? Mother's voice held false disappointment. But you just got here. I have clients to see. Paul walked me to the elevator. later. I know you think I'm making a mistake, but at least she'll be comfortable. Comfort isn't everything, says the person who never spent nights freezing on a porch. The elevator doors closed between us before I could respond. That evening, I got a call from Barbara Chen. I wanted to let you know the East Wing heating is fully operational now. We've also had a bed open up in the West Wing, if your mother wants to return. She's been transferred to Meadowbrook. Family decision. Barbara paused. Meadowbrook? But they're under investigation for... She caught herself. Well, I'm sure you know what's best. I did know. I knew exactly what would happen next. Wednesday, I focused on other clients. Placed a sweet grandmother at Garden Grove. Found a spot for a veteran at Sunset Manor. Each placement appropriate, documented, justified. My reputation remained intact despite Dylan's investigation. Thursday morning, Paul called. Mom's not adjusting well. She seems off. Off how? Confused. Sleepy. The nurse says it's normal. Just the adjustment period. What medications is she on? I don't know. They handle all that. You should ask to see her medication list. Check the dosages. Why? His voice turned suspicious. What are you implying? Nothing. Just good practice to stay informed. He hung up without saying goodbye. Friday, I stopped by Meadowbrook during lunch. Mother was in the common area, slumped in a wheelchair among the other sedated residents. Her eyes were glazed, movement sluggish. Mother? She turned slowly, focusing with effort. Oh, hello dear. Is it visiting time? How are you feeling? Tired. So tired, but warm. She smiled vaguely. Very warm. I checked her medication chart at the nurse's station while the staff was distracted. Ativan, Seroquel, Trazodone, all at maximum doses. The chemical restraint cocktail. That weekend, I compiled research on Meadowbrook's medication practices. Found 3 lawsuits in the past 2 years. Families claiming their loved ones were over-medicated into compliance. All settled out of court. I texted the information to Paul. He didn't respond. Monday, Helen called from Frost Pines. Your mother's old bed is still available. The heating's lovely now. I do miss having someone to talk to. She's at a different facility now. Oh, Helen sounded disappointed. Well, if she ever wants to come back. Tuesday marked 1 week at Meadowbrook. I arrived to find Mother more alert, sitting up in bed. The sedation honeymoon was ending. She'd be building tolerance. The food here is remarkable, she told me conversationally. I've never seen green beans that color before, or that texture. Paul says you're adjusting. Oh yes, though I do worry about him. He seems so stressed, guilty. She smoothed her blanket. I told him it wasn't his fault, that he's doing his best. Generous of you. Family is everything. She met my eyes, even when they disappoint us. A commotion erupted in the hallway. Her roommate had fallen trying to get to the bathroom alone. No one had answered her call button. 3rd time this week, Mother observed. Poor thing. The staff is so overwhelmed. Wednesday, Paul called again. Mom's complaining about the food, and her roommate, and the staff. Nothing's ever good enough. Meadowbrook has documented quality issues, which you could have mentioned before. I tried. You said warmth was all that mattered. Don't. His voice was sharp. Don't you dare say I told you so. I'm saying Frost Pines has an opening. West Wing. Properly heated now. We're not moving her again. She needs stability. Thursday brought another call. Mother had refused her medications, claiming they made her fuzzy. The staff was insisting. Paul was caught in the middle. She says she doesn't need so many pills, he said, exhaustion creeping into his voice. But the nurses say she's being difficult. She has the right to refuse medication. They say she'll be labeled non-compliant. Could affect her care. That's illegal. Is it? He sounded lost. I don't know anymore. I just wanted her to be warm. Friday, I visited again. Mother was in the dining room picking at mystery meat. Her table mates stared vacantly at their trays. I've been thinking, she said without preamble, about choices, how we justify them. Have you? That night you mentioned the hypothermia incident. I opened the window myself. She cut a piece of meat, examined it, set it down. You knew, of course. I suspected, but you didn't say anything. Let Paul believe what he wanted. She smiled. We're more alike than you think. We're nothing alike. No, we both work within systems. Use documentation to support our narratives. Maintain plausible deniability. She pushed her tray away. The only difference is I taught you well. Saturday, Dylan called. Just wanted to let you know the investigation is closed. No findings of abuse or neglect. Your documentation was thorough. Thank you for letting me know. How's your mom doing at the new place? Adjusting. Good, good. He paused. You know, if she ever needs different placement, I heard Frost Pines fix their heating issues. Sunday, Paul showed up at my apartment. First time in months. He looked exhausted. I need help, he said simply. I let him in, made coffee. He sat at my kitchen table, head in his hands. She's miserable. I'm miserable. The place is awful, but she won't admit I made a mistake because that would mean you were right. What do you want me to do? Fix it. You're the expert. Find her somewhere better. Frost Pines has an opening. The place you originally chose? He laughed bitterly. Full circle. It's a good facility. The heating's fixed. Helen would be happy to have her back. And Mom? Would she be happy? She'd be appropriately cared for. He studied me. You knew this would happen. Knew Meadowbrook was terrible. Let me learn the hard way. You wouldn't have believed me otherwise. Just like Mom knew you'd eventually rebel against the cold, but let you suffer first. He rubbed his face. God, we're a messed up family. Monday, I filed the transfer paperwork. Frost Pines to Meadowbrook, back to Frost Pines. The insurance company would question it. I'd have documentation ready. Tuesday, Paul and I told Mother together. Frost Pines has addressed their heating concerns. I said professionally. The West Wing maintains consistent warmth. Your previous roommate has requested you back. Mother looked between us. And you both agree this is best? Yes, Paul said firmly. How lovely. My children working together. Her smile was sharp, just like a proper family. Wednesday was moving day. Again, Mother packed her few belongings without complaint. The Meadowbrook staff seemed relieved to see her go. Difficult patience, one nurse muttered, always complaining about something. Back at Frost Pines, Helen greeted Mother with genuine warmth. I saved your spot by the window. The afternoon sun is delightful now that the heating works. Mother settled into her old bed in her warm room with her chatty roommate. Full circle indeed. Thank you, darling, she told me, for everything. Just doing my job. Of course. She arranged her things on the nightstand. Will you visit? Thursdays, during my rounds. Professional visits only? What else would they be? She nodded slowly. What else indeed? Paul hugged her goodbye. I'll come Saturdays. We can do the crossword. That would be nice. She patted his cheek. You're a good son. In the parking lot, Paul stopped me. Is this what winning looks like? Because it doesn't feel like anyone won. It's what appropriate care looks like. Cold comfort. Better than false warmth. He drove away. I sat in my car, watching the West Wing windows. Mother appeared in one, adjusting her curtains. She saw me and waved. I didn't wave back. Thursday, I visited during rounds. Professional, documented. Mother was thriving. Physical therapy going well. Participating in activities. Taking appropriate medications at appropriate doses. Your mother's doing wonderfully, Barbara mentioned. Whatever was bothering her before seems resolved. She just needed the right environment, don't we all? Friday, I placed another client at northern breeze. The heating was still broken, but Mr. Thompson ran hot, liked cool spaces, perfect match. Saturday came and went. Paul visited mother as promised, sent me a photo of them doing the crossword together, both smiling, playing normal. Sunday, I organized my files. Mother's case properly closed, documentation complete, everything tied up neatly.